When you open an Unreal Engine project, you'll always see this screen, which contains a lot of things, and we'll go over them one by one. In here, the biggest window is the viewport, and this is where you'll see the game. On the right side, we have the outliner, which shows you a list of all the objects in the current level. Below that is the details tab, and here, if you select a game object, then you'll see all the details of that object. We'll go over all of these later on. And then there's the world settings. We'll go over those later on as well. Below, you'll have a couple of menus. And what's really important for us is the content drawer. You can click this one to bring it up, and it will automatically go back down if you leave it. But for me personally, I like to keep it always on, so I click the Dock in Layout button. This way it's always here and we can use it anytime. In the content browser, you basically see all the folders and files of the game. For example, here you see the material, the map, and the blueprints for the character and everything else. We'll be using this all the time, and so it's important to always keep it here so it's very easy and quickly accessible. In the viewport, we can select any object and manipulate it however we want. By default, you will see this UI pivot, which allows you to select and move the object. If you select the red one, it will only move it in the red axis. If you select the green one, it will only move it in the green axis. And if you select the blue one, it will only move it in the blue axis. The red represents X axis, and the green is the Y axis, and the blue one is the Z axis. And you can see that down here also. And you can undo and redo just like in any other Windows application, using Ctrl-Z and Ctrl-Y. You can also undo and redo from the edit menu down here, where there's undo move and a redo. And it will show you even what the action is. In this case, was moving the element. Next, we can do the rotation. Over here, we have all the different tools to manipulate the level. With this one, we can just select different objects. And as you can notice, it's not showing the pivot UI. If we select the arrows, we can move around the object. If you select the rotate option, you'll get this other UI where it helps you to rotate the object in 3 different axes, just like the previous one. This is in the Z axis, and this is in the Y axis, and this is in the X axis. Finally, there's the scale option, and with this you can scale the object. If you select the center one, you can just scale it in all directions. And if you select each different axis, you can scale it up in those axes. And you don't have to press these buttons to switch between the movement. You can actually also press the W to switch to the moving option, E for rotation, and R for scaling. Also, with the moving option, there's this center ball, which if you press it, you can move the object in any direction from the point of view of where you're looking. A really important setting is the snap setting. Currently it's set to 10, and we can set it to 100, and I'll show you what it basically does. If you see here all the squares, this basically represents a grid. And when we're moving it now, as you can see, it's following the grid. Each grid is 100 units, and I just select 100, and it's moving 100 units every time. If we change it to something else, like 500, it will move in 500 increments. And if we don't want any snapping, we can just click on this button, which turns off the snapping, and then you can move it however you like. There's also a snapping system for rotation. So for example, if we set it to 45 degrees, when we switch to the rotation, we can snap it by 45 degrees. This will come in very handy when you do level design. And again, you can also disable it and just rotate however you like. Finally, there's also scale snapping. And if we set it, for example, to 1, you can see it very clearly where it's only scaling it by 1 increments. And if we scale it by 10, for example, it will scale at much bigger increments. And of course, by disabling it, you can scale it at whichever increment you want. For the viewport, we can actually move around, so we can see the scene in different views. You can right-click and hold and rotate the camera in whatever direction you want. Another way to move is to click and hold the middle mouse button. And this way you can move around in your current position, left, right, and up and down. But the main way to move around is to hold right click and use the WASD button to just fly around. People who have played first-person shooters will be familiar with this kind of movement. And finally, you can also zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. While having an object selected, you can go to the Details tab, where you will see all the information about this object. Here we have the Transform section, where it shows the X, Y, and Z location, and the rotation and scale of the currently selected object. And you can also change the location, rotation, and scale of the object from right here by typing the numbers or by holding and dragging it. This works for the rotation too, and the scale as well. This allows you to be very precise with your numbers and can be super useful in certain scenarios. Here we have the static mesh section. Because we have selected a game object that's a mesh, we have this section here. When you click on this, you'll get all the meshes that are currently in this project. So for example, we will select the cylinder and see it switched to a cylinder. Below, we have the materials section. Again, because this is a 3D mesh, it allows us to select the material. A material is basically data that contains the information to how a mesh should be displayed in the scene. In this case, this one, for example, has a material where it shows it in square designs. If we switch it, for example, to make it green, this material basically shows it to look like a green mesh. And you can switch it to like something like red as well, and to whatever you want. Here, for example, we also have a material that makes it look more metallic. And see, it has more reflectiveness and all kinds of things. And if you scroll down, there's a ton of other settings. You don't have to worry all about those, and typically, any developer does not need to know all of them. Next, we'll talk about these settings above here. Over here, we have the play button. If you click this, it starts the game. Because we have a third-person template, it will start with this character by default. Unreal Engine is really cool because it gives you these templates where you get a basic game right from the start. To exit the game mode, you press the escape button. You can also play by pressing Alt-P. And you can stop again by pressing escape. Right now, I'm not a big fan of the whole green color for this scene. So let's learn how to change that material color. Let's select one of the objects that are green, scroll down to the material, and double click on the material. This will bring up a window for the material editor. Different materials will have different settings, but this one is a very basic one, where here in the parameter section, you'll click on the surface properties, and you'll see these settings. Because it's a very simple one, you'll only have 3 settings, and in our case, we just want to change the color. By the way, this is a viewport just like the one earlier, so we can move around in it. And preview the material. You can change the color by clicking the color over here, which will bring up a color picker. If you have used programs like Photoshop or any other programs that use colors, you will be very familiar with this kind of menu. But if this is your first time, don't be overwhelmed. All we have to do is just click on the color wheel, which is right here. Click and hold, and then just choose the color we want. I'm thinking something like yellow would look much better. So we'll just stick to this. Press OK. Press the save button, which is this floppy disk looking button, and then close this window. And now I think the color looks a bit better and doesn't hurt the eye too much. I felt like the green was a bit too strong. Then that's it for the basic overview of the editor.